Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today we're doing a video on a very interesting topic. What we have here are what I consider the two premier rifles in the world for as far as the AR platform. The SR15 E3 Mod 2 MLOK and the LMT Mars MLC. What you see here, I believe, are the industry standards. We previously did a video on the SR15 versus the LMT MWS. Now, it's difficult to do that video because you have a very, very large price point difference between the LMT and the Knights. You're looking at a couple $1,000 difference between the two. The Knights is significantly more. So, no matter how good the rifle is or how bad the rifle is or whatever, it's going to come down to the price. There are people who just won't pay that higher price tag. Well, when it comes down to this rifle, not the case. These are definitely on level playing fields. You have the Knights Armament one has an MSRP of $24.70, and the LMT has an MSRP of $24.99. So what you're looking at here are two, incredible rifles within the exact same price point. So now what we got to look at is the features that are on both of them. And oddly enough, when you look at the features on these things, they both have the same features, slightly different, but they all have approached them in a different way. For instance, if you look at the gas system, neither one of these are stock. You look at the bolt assemblies, neither one of them are exactly stock. They've all had major modifications to them, both. So neither one that you see here is what you would consider stock by no means. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the external features of these first, just to show you what they are, and then we're going to get them apart and look at some of the changes in the bolts and so forth. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to start at the rear. Now, interestingly enough, they both use the exact same stock and exact same recoil system. Both rifles utilize LMT stocks, and both of them utilize a standard mil-spec type receiver extension 6 position. For as far as the rear of the receiver, you have a QD point on the LMT. It has a QD point in the back. If you look at the Knights Armaments, you'll see we have a receiver extension end plate that has ambidextrous QD detachment points. So both of them will offer you the ability to place a QD point on the receiver extension end plate. Lower receiver. If you look at the pistol grip, the KAC, you're looking at standard M16A2. And if you look at the LMT, you're looking at a ergo grip, which is pretty much what LMT puts on all of their guns. Now we'll look up to the safety. Both rifles utilize a ambidextrous safety. Knights has sort of a divot that comes down here, which is actually really, really nice. So when you have it down and you're right-handed, your finger goes alongside of that rather than sticking out like so. So it's got a very nice safety on it. Now we take a look at the oversized trigger guard. You just have an oversized trigger guard on the Knights Armament as well as you do on the LMT Mars. This was something relatively new that was introduced on the Mars lower receiver. You won't see this on the standard Guardian lower receivers, but you will see them on the Mars. You'll notice that we have the ambidextrous bolt release. Now on the SR25, SR15s, you have a bolt release on the right side and a bolt catch release on the left side. If you notice on the LMT, we have a bolt catch and a bolt release on both sides. If I want to release, I hit the upper part. If I wanted to open, I hit the lower part. So either right or left-handed can use the bolt release on the LMT on both, and it's just a bolt release on the Knights. Both have the standard location for the magazine release button. Both have a relatively flared magazine well. The Mars gives you a slightly more of a taper on the magazine well itself. When we look over to the left side, we'll see the rifle is very much the same. You'll notice on the Knights Armament rifle, you have a ambidextrous magazine release, bolt catch and release, and you have your safety. If you notice on the LMT as well, you have the safety, you have the ambidextrous bolt catch bolt release, as well as the ambidextrous magazine release. So basically the lower receivers you have are virtually identical in features. Not necessarily attacked the same way. The LMT, you have a bolt release and lock on both sides. Again, you have all the same features, just a little bit different. Now, when we look at the upper receivers, where we get a lot different. The barrel on this SR15 is a hammer forged barrel. The barrels utilized by LMT are chromoly vanadium. They're standard button cut barrels. They are chrome plated, and also the barrels for the LMT are cryogenically treated. So barrels, for as far as accuracy is concerned, you'll see from the targets coming up a little bit later, the guns were very, very, very comparable. If you really have to get down to the nitpicking, I had a slightly tighter group with the SR15 with this barrel here. But for as far as both barrels are concerned, you have high quality longevity in these barrels. Now, where the barrels do also make a major change is in the gas systems themselves. The gas system on the SR15E2 is very, very different from what you would see on any other rifle. Instead of utilizing a standard gas port where you have your port that goes up and you have a gas block that slides over and pinned in place, this one's held in place very, very differently. The way that it's held in place is you have a gas block that slides on, locks into place, and then it's held on by, if you want to look at it, let's say a miniature receiver extension nut that's torqued in place. There's no drilling and pinning necessary for this. Also, the way the gas tube fits onto the gas block is very different on the SR15 as well. Instead of the gas tube just going in and lining up and having the gas where it can go outside of the gas tube in between the gap between the gas tube and the gas block, there's a spigot on the gas block on the SR15, and the end of the gas block is belled, and that slides right over, and then there's a lock nut that comes on from the rear that torques down. What it does is it gives you a full 360-degree seal, so you have no possibility for gas loss on the SR15. Now, that does not mean that LMT kept the same gas block as normal. Now, the difference between the MRP system or the monolithic rail platform and their standard systems is the way the gas port is cut. Unlike the standard, which goes at a 90-degree angle, this comes at an angle as such, about a 45-degree or so angle. What this modification does over the 90 degrees is it prevents a higher cyclic rate caused by gas port erosion. What happens on normal rifles is, with the standard 90-degree cut gas block, is as you fire, there's fire cutting on the gas port itself, and what that does is it elongates, it allows more gas, and it speeds up the cyclic rate of the rifle, or the speed in which the action unlocks. For example, a standard M4 U.S. government rifle has a cyclic rate between 750 and 950 rounds per minute. Once the rifle goes through a 6,000 round endurance test, that shelf is raised from 750 rounds per minute up to 1,025. That's how much of a change can happen just within 6,000 rounds. And when you start getting the higher opening rate, you're throwing some of the timing off of the weapon. That can cause a higher rate of fire failures to extract. It can cause some other issues as well. By having this on the angle, you eliminate the issues that are caused by gas port erosion, speeding the system up. So basically what you're doing is you're keeping the life cycle of the parts and everything in tune with the barrel. You're not over-gassing it as the rifle gets more use. So they both attack the gas systems in different ways to improve them. Of course, with the MRP system, we have the removable barrel, which we're going to show in a little bit how that comes apart. Upper receivers, what we have here, the LMT, we have a one-piece upper receiver, a full monolithic upper receiver that's manufactured out of a single forging of 7075 T6 aircraft grade aluminum. You have a full free-floated barrel. On the SR15, you have the URX4. What we have here is a free-floating handguard that's put on a standard upper receiver. So this is two pieces instead of one. And this acts as the barrel nut, so you get an extremely durable, barrel to handguard fit, upper receiver fit. A lot of testing that's been done on these show that no matter how many thousands of rounds they put through these things do not loosen up like a lot of other ones do. This is an incredible system. It's not what you would call user-friendly to the operator. You're not going to be able to remove this without training and in special tools. So basically, when you buy this rifle, it is as is, which is very similar to the LMT. So the LMT permits you to be able to, by removing two bolts, swap out different barrel lengths, different calibers, even different operating systems, which is really what separates the two of these. This is a standard 5.56 rifle as is. This gives the shooter the ability to swap out barrels, calibers at will. For as far as the charging handle is concerned, if you look on the back of the LMT, you'll see we have a fully ambidextrous charging handle. We have latches on both right and left-hand sides. And on here we have one on the left-hand side only. Now, Knights does offer an ambidextrous charging handle as well. It just didn't come on this particular rifle. For as far as backup sights are concerned, both of them have folding front sights. The LMT ones are a little larger, as you can see from the Knights. So basically you see much more like an HK-type sight on the way the ears are on that, standard 4-position front sight post. Now you have a much more narrow, round front sight post on the Knights. It's more precise. Now this is adjustable as just like a standard M16 M4 with a bullet tip or suitable tool. This one here is adjustable with a dial, so you're doing it by hand. So this is a little bit more convenient. Looking at the rear backup sights are very, very comparable on both of these. Both of them are adjustable for windage and elevation. They both adjust for windage and elevation the same way. Windage is done by a dial. The LMT has ambidextrous. It's got 2 dials on it. The SR15 has it on the right side only. The biggest difference between these two sights is the LMT does have 2 apertures, a long range and a standard range aperture. We just have a standard long range on the SR15, but they're primarily used as backup sights anyways. So the next thing that we're going to take a look at is the bolt carrier groups. The bolt carrier groups on these 2 rifles is really, really where all the real massive reliability improvements have been made. And both rifles do an excellent job. Now, I do want to say that the LMT, which you see in the bottom here, the rifles can come with a standard mil spec, or they can come with what we have here is the enhanced carrier. The enhanced carrier is probably one of the best carriers in the industry. My rifles all have the enhanced carriers. And these 2 are very, very comparable as far as the way they're made and what they do. It makes a difference, but we're going to go over both of them and show you how both companies have addressed some of the extraction issues and durability and so forth. First, we're going to look at the SR15. What we have here is a standard mil-spec bolt carrier. This is a standard bolt carrier manganese phosphate. This was one of the only real disappointments I had with the SR15 series rifles. You know, when the SR15s first came out, they utilized the chrome-plated bolt carriers, and for some reason they switched and went to the manganese phosphate. I just thought that the chrome gave it a lot more character, not to mention, for as far as nice was concerned, it gave them that more of their own look, because they were the ones who started using the chrome carriers on production rifles. They kept it on the SR25s, but for some reason they got rid of it on here. But that's not really a mechanical issue. That's just a personal thing. Where the real change comes into is the bolt and the cam pin assembly. Now, M4 carbines have been known to break bolts. Generally, when the bolts break, they break at this point right here, which is the cam slot. They'll crack on these edges here, and the bolt will break. So the way that Knights decided they were going to attack this was they were going to modify the cam pin to a narrower diameter. So therefore, they had a narrower diameter hole in the bolt itself. So what that did is it left significantly more material on the sides to make the bolt that much more strong, to eliminate a lot of the failures on the cam slot area and the bolt from cracking. Now, to do that also, they modified a firing pin as well, made it narrower for the narrower hole that was on the cam pin as well. So the only negative thing I'm really going to say about this system here is that it is proprietary to Knights. It requires its own barrel extension. It does not work with the standard mil-spec barrel extension. In order to use this whole system, you have to have a Knights Armament barrel extension and the bolt. This is not something that you can drop into any other system. It's all proprietary parts. Next thing we're going to look at is the bolt itself. We're going to remove the extractor. And the extractor is the first area we're going to look at. If you notice, we have dual extractor springs, very similar to that of the LMT bolt, the left tail extractor. But this is where the Knights Armament really changes from the way LMT does theirs. If you'll notice, there's a locking pin on the extractor. And that locking pin engages the extractor pin in the middle on a notch right here, which locks it into place. So again, what this does is it increases your extractor force by having it more central and having more leverage. And you have some strong springs on there as well. And I do believe you have some plastic buffers in there too. Then we flip over the extractor. You'll see we have a crud groove right in here as well, where brass chips can go and it won't affect the extractor's function. And we also have a little bit more of an aggressive extractor claw here as well that grips a little bit more of the rim. Now we look at the bolt. You'll see that we have rather large locking lugs, and you'll see how they're rounded off in profile. This is one of the reasons why you have to have a separate barrel extension, is because the locking lugs are thicker. You see they're a rounder profile. You also will see that we have a fully supported breech face. Instead of having this notch cut out here where the normal extractor would go, we have this fully supported and extractor that goes around that. This does a lot of wonders for as far as if the rifle was to have an overpowered round or over the beach conditions. It prevents the energy from escaping out that side. It's definitely a reliability enhancement. No surprise, that's not many more companies have done it. You do have a manganese phosphate finish on here as well. This is referred to as the E3 or Enhanced 3. So you have an enhanced extractor, you have an enhanced bolt, you have an enhanced cam pin. So you have all these incredible changes that have been done on it. But unfortunately, it just does not allow you to say you want to upgrade your own rifle, allow you to do it. This system has been tested very heavily by Knights, and they have had some incredible results for durability and reliability and not breaking bolts with it. Reassembly is very similar to that of any other bolt. Chrome plated inside the carrier and the key. Make sure your extractor is on the right. Drop it. So if you were to purchase the SR15, I would just recommend that you have some spare parts for the bolt carrier group just on hand in case anything ever does go wrong with it. Not that anything has been shown. Now we're going to take a look at the LMT enhanced bolt carrier group. A little bit of a story behind this one. This was developed by Carl Lewis at the request of SOCOM during the early days of the global war on terror. SOCOM was having issues with failures to extract as well as bolts breaking pretty heavily due to their firing schedules. And they asked Carl Lewis if he would design a bolt that would take care of the extraction problems and durability problems, and this is what you have. Now, the bolt carrier has changes to it as well. This is not a stock bolt carrier. First off, you'll notice that we have 3 holes instead of 2. We have a weep hole. And we have a change in location of the exhaust port. And we also have sand cuts in here as well. But the most important thing that's done on here is the alteration of the cam track. The issue with the carbines that they always have is due to the fact they have the gas system where your gas port is much closer to the receiver than the rifle. You have higher pressures, which means your bolt unlocking at a faster pace. What he had done to increase extraction was to allow more dwell time. So what he did was he altered the cam track on here, so as the bolt would extract, or it would unlock slower, which would allow more time for residual pressures in the cartridge case to drop down to make it easier on extraction. That was a major issue for SOCOM, and this bolt carrier, it did just that. It made a difference in that. Unfortunately, the reason why this was never adopted was because it didn't work properly in the full auto rifles because of the timing. It wouldn't work properly on fully automatic. You get bolt carrier bounce. So we're going to pop that through. Standard firing pin, standard extractor pin, standard cam pin. Major modifications to the bolt. First off, you're going to see modifications to the locking lugs. You're going to see where they've been cut and stress relieved, preventing them from cracking. You also have a new material on here as well. This is a proprietary material and a proprietary nickel finish that was done on these bolts as well. That's one of these super secret formulas that Carl Lewis is not giving out for as far as the material of his bolts. The extractor spring. And here we have the LMT lobster tail extractor, just like you saw on the Knights. Now, for as far as which one was developed sooner, all I can tell you is I saw the LMT much sooner than I did the Knights. From what I'm understanding from Knights, these were developed around the same time. There not necessarily was any collaboration between the two, but as you can see, both of them address the issues sort of differently. So you'll see the dual extractor springs. You have the standard location for the extractor pin. You have the crud groove, and you have even much more so than the Knights, you have more of an aggressive extractor groove to grip more of the rim and to grip it harder. You also have the fully supported cartridge base. And this material here, I can tell you I've had some of these bolts for over, well, hell, 15 years. I think I got my first enhanced bolt in 2003. And I've been trying to break one ever since, and I've never been able to break one. And I beat them on fully automatic. The bolts on both of these, I think, represent the most that's been done to improve the rifle's performance of any other in the industry. You will see, as you saw in my one video on enhanced bolt carrier groups, you'll see there are companies, some of them address some issues on the bolt, some of them address some issues on the carrier. Nobody really did the amount of engineering developing on these two, on bolts like Knights and LMT did, to make the rifles that much more reliable and that much more durable. So as you can see from both of them, you have a lot of the same problems have been addressed in just slightly different ways. However, the LMT bolt carrier group, enhanced bolt carrier group, you can buy and you can drop into any rifle. Now we're going to take a look at the lower receivers in the inside. We have the LMT, and then we have the Knights. As you can see, both of them use two-stage triggers. Now, I have to say, for as far as the quality of the triggers are concerned, they're both very much comparable. But I have to say the take-up and the release on the Knights is slightly better. You don't have as much travel, as much springiness to it. But both of them are excellent triggers. You can also see differences in the way the LMT bolt catch and bolt release works, where you have the SR15. So you push in the bolt release, you'll see how the right side pushes out. Push inward to release, but does not allow you to engage with it on the right side. Machining, as you would expect on both of these, is beautiful. Both rifles utilize standard buffers. Both of these are designed to fire semi-automatic only, so there wasn't much of a need to have any of the heavier buffers in them. They both work perfectly in all environments as well. So this is a close-up of both of the lower receivers of both the Knights and the LMT Mars. But as you can see, quality for both is beautiful. What you would expect from the top manufacturers in the industry. I'm going to be showing you how to change out the barrel on the upper receiver, but we're going to be using a different receiver. The rifle that I have here is the rifle we're discussing, is the brand new upper receiver utilizing the MLOK. When you use the MLOK rail sections, you have a tab that goes in there, and what that does is that restricts the barrel from being able to come out. So in order to change out the barrel on the MLOK, you have to make sure you remove your rail section so you can pull the barrel out, so the barrel extension does not get caught in there. So we're going to look at one of these over here that doesn't have any of that. And we're going to show you how that works. Remove the bolt carrier assembly. And the rifles come with a torque limiter. This is used for both loosening and tightening, 140 inch-pounds. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen the rear. And we're going to remove the front. And we're going to pull the barrel right out. And there we go. Now this happens to be a 300 blackout 10.5 inch barrel. As you can see, it utilizes a straight gas tube, which is a more durable gas tube. Now what we can do for as far as barrels for the LMT MRP, we have 5.56 millimeter in direct gas system. We have that in 10.5. We have it in 14.5. We have it in 16, 18, and I believe 20 inches. Then we can switch over to 300 blackout. We have 10.5 and we have 16 inches. You also have a 20-inch 204 Ruger. You have a, I believe, 22-inch 224 Valkyrie. I have 6.8 SPC in 16 and 10.5. And now we can also go and we can change over to a external piston. If you want, for those who decide they want to go with the AK type external piston, by swapping out the barrel assembly and the bolt carrier, you can now switch operating systems from direct gas to external piston if you so choose. So this allows you to have multi-caliber, multi-barrel lengths, and even multi-operating systems. To reinstall. There are three different types of MRP upper receivers. The first one we have is the standard MRP CQB, which is quad mil standard 1913 rails. And the receiver you're seeing here is the Slick 8, or the LM8, which has removable rail sections, as you can see. And these are just inserts for being able to grip. This is a proprietary LMT system. And now you have the new MLC, or the MLOK. So you have three different options for as far as that. So now we're just going to torque over until we hear it click. There we go. Then what we're going to do now is we're going to take this to the range and we're going to see how they shoot. Well, looking at both rifles, we have a lot of rounds through each rifle. The ammunition that we used were the Black Hills Mark 262 77 grain OTM. That was my round I used for accuracy testing. We also had Remington UMC 55 grain full metal jacket. We had SIG 77 grain OTM and SIG 55 grain full metal jacket. The rifles shot excellent. For as far as groups were concerned, the best groups that were gotten with the LMT was just at 1 inch at 100 yards with the 77 grain OTM, and the Knights was very close, but just a little bit tighter at 0.83 inches with Black Hill 77 grain OTM. So you're looking at guns that are right comparable with each other. So you can't really say which one shot better. I mean, it could be luck of the draw with either one of those, but I think these two rifles are very, very in line with each other. So now is the big question: which one is better? You know what? When you have something this close, you really can't say. There's one deciding factor for sure. Do you intend on wanting multiple calibers? If your answer is no, either way, you're good to go either way. If you decide you don't want to change calibers, you know, the Knights is certainly an excellent way to go. Because the price point is the same, I don't believe you're going to go wrong either way. The LMT does give you the additional advantage of being able to swap out barrels, and I can tell you from using these guns since 2003 on a regular basis with a lot of rounds that the 2 bolts system does not have any effect on accuracy whatsoever. The barrels that LMT puts out are very, very good. The barrels that Knights puts out are excellent barrels as well. You know, both rifles are comparable in every way. They all have the same comparable aspects on the ambidextrous controls, on the quality. They use the same stock. For as far as the bolt carrier groups, as you saw, they both have major enhancements that are comparable to each other, and the bolt carrier groups as well. So I think what it comes down to is what you're going to like. You know, either one of these, your appreciation is not going to go down. You're not going to depreciate because, again, you're looking at 2 of the premier rifles in the industry. You're not going to go wrong either way. You know, if one of them appeals to you more than the other, you know, fine. It's really what it comes down to. The difference between the SR15 and the MWS versus this is very different in the fact of the cost. You know, the cost is a major issue with the 308 family, not with the 5.56. For as far as the durability is concerned, you know, over the years, I've got probably hundreds of thousands, 100,000 rounds at least out of LMT rifles in multiple calibers over the last 15 years or so. I've done a lot of testing myself as a consultant for LMT. I've used these rifles a lot. The SR15s, I've not really had access to them. This is really the first time that I've had access to the SR15s and the M110s and so forth. When I've been taking advantage of it, it's been great. You know, there's one thing I do want to correct. The previous videos that I've had, I've talked about the close relationship between the 2 companies. Now, from the information I had many years ago, there was a close relationship at the point where LMT was making a lot of parts for Knights. That is not true anymore. As of now, Knights is manufacturing their own components. So the previous videos that I had, I did not have access to that information at the time. But I do want to reiterate the fact that as of now, Knights is manufacturing their parts in-house. So whichever you choose, you will not go wrong. You are looking at, as I said, the premier rifles in the industry. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, please subscribe, and even better, share. Thank you.